Well, welcome back to Finance Uncut. On today's episode, a $1 trillion Fed coin. So I had this article come across my desk last week, which I wanted to share with you. But before we go through this article, let's just cut to a clip with Professor Steve Henke on this $1 trillion platinum coin.
Right, but just on your point about a large coin, it doesn't have to be a large coin. It could be any coin the size of this that I'm holding in my hand right now, this half-ounce platinum coin. Well, it could be 1 ounce. I mean, whatever size they deem it necessary. But the point is they're just assigning an arbitrary value to that coin, right? I mean, so what's stopping from doing that to anything? I mean, why haven't they done that already to increase the money supply and just buy themselves out of debt? I mean, this just seems like a very convenient loophole.
Well, it's a workaround for this debt ceiling issue that, and they haven't done it in the past because there's this debt ceiling always gets lifted, so they can issue debt. The U.S. Treasury wants to issue debt to finance the government, and they usually are never bound in reality by any kind of debt ceiling. The Congress always lifts the ceiling, so they just issue more paper debt, more bonds, and that's the end of it. So the workaround that we're talking about never comes into play as a reality. Now we're talking about it as a hypothetical. You're telling me, well, what if they don't increase the debt ceiling, and by October 18th, that's it? We hit a stone wall. What do they do then? And one proposal, or one idea, shall we say, floating around is this idea of a platinum coin, and it would work just like I said. They'd issue the thing as a token, by the way. They'd deposit it at the Fed, and they'd draw on it. They'd have an account at the Fed, and they'd draw on it. They'd spend money as a result of that, and that's what would work. Normally, they don't have to do this because they issue bonds instead. That's how they're financing the deficit. And who buys the bonds? Well, the Fed buys a lot of the bonds and monetizes them.
All right, so let's get to this article. So, credit risk out of China and debt ceiling drama in Washington are driving precious metal markets this week. Gold and silver attracted some significant safe haven buying as equity markets succumb to selling. The storyline being trumpeted in the financial media is that a government shutdown and possible debt default loom in October unless the US Senate comes to an agreement on raising the debt ceiling. There is some truth to these headlines, and we would certainly include unsustainable government debt among the top reasons for investors to own physical precious metals. But let's get real. The odds of an actual default on US government bonds in 2021 are slim to none. Like so many times before, brinkmanship will almost certainly give way to compromise. The debt ceiling will be raised one way or another. Right now, what we are witnessing is mostly political theatre. Republicans are posturing to show they are opposed to Democrats' spending agenda, and Democrats are posturing to force Republicans to vote in favor of raising the debt ceiling. The reality is that establishment Republicans approve most of the spending that is now being financed, and Democrat leader Chuck Schumer could authorize the government to undertake additional borrowing through a procedural vote in the Senate at any time. Democrats have the votes to do this on their own, CNN acknowledged. But by doing so, they would be getting all the worst parts of raising or suspending the debt ceiling with none of the benefits. By benefits, they mean political cover for vulnerable Democrats in the midterm election campaign. Meanwhile, CBS News is reporting that a US debt default could wipe out 6 million jobs and $15 trillion in wealth, based on calculations by Moody's Analytics. Now, the fact that we're even talking about that apparently Moody's say that there's 6 million jobs and $15 trillion in wealth if we don't lift the debt ceiling, kind of tells you about, the economic debt Ponzi scheme that we've got. But anyway, let's go on. Janet Yellen is warning of an economic catastrophe in the event that Congress fails to raise the government's credit card limit. These alarmist warnings are misleading. Government bonds and the dollars in which their denominator claims on wealth, not wealth itself. In a sovereign debt collapse, purchasing power is transferred away from bondholders to the benefit of taxpayers who are no longer on the hook for paying interest and principal. Does everyone remember what Alan Greenspan said about defaulting on the debt or not being able to pay its bills? Let's just cut to a clip and have a look at what he said.
The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
We can guarantee cash benefits as far out and at whatever size you like, but we cannot guarantee their purchasing power.
Of course, a domino effect would hit financial markets and sectors of the economy sensitive to credit risk. The financial system would be forced to reorganize itself on sound footing. A painful process which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing in the long run. But a default won't be allowed to happen. Even if the Senate fails to act, the Treasury Department and Federal Reserve could invoke emergency measures on their own. Some unconventional options being discussed involve precious metals, though not in the sense of returning to sound money. Now, you will remember I did this video, 40k gold or $40,000 gold in reset. And here Luke Groman is talking about just resetting the price of gold itself so that Treasury can have more dollars to spend, either pay down debt or to spend on its green infrastructure fund, or whatever it plans to do. So one proposal would have the Treasury Department mint platinum coins with an arbitrary face value of $1 trillion. These coins could then be deposited at the Federal Reserve, which would credit the government with the trillions of dollars it needs to pay its bills. Voila, no new debt. As wacky as this idea sounds, it was first floated by hard leftists during the Obama administration as a way around political gridlock over the debt ceiling, and it is again being pushed as a possible last-ditch maneuver. Of course, individuals who hold platinum American Eagle coins wouldn't become instant trillionaires, but platinum and other hard assets could still move markedly higher in dollar terms based on inflationary fears if the Fed used its digital printing press to buy coins the US government declares are worth $1 trillion. Regardless of what form it takes, the Fed stands ready to print all the currency the government needs to pay its bills. Former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan has said that a default is essentially impossible under our monetary system, which you saw before in that little clip that I shared. Instead of fearing a formal US default, investors should fear the inflationary consequences of averting it. A lot of new currency creation will be coming down the pike in the years ahead to keep the $28.8 trillion and growing national debt propped up while enabling politicians to continue running multi-trillion-dollar annual budget deficits. The greatest default risk of all is that of the Federal Reserve reneging on its obligation to maintain a stable currency. With no meaningful grounding anymore in gold or other precious metals, there is nothing to stand in the way of a precipitous decline in the Federal Reserve notes value, especially since currency devaluation is more convenient for politicians than balancing the budget. And that's what it pretty much comes down to. Do we default on the debt and have a almighty deflationary bust and depression? Or do they just print, create more currency, inflate the debt away, basically default through a devaluation of the currency? Which is the more likely... which is more likely to occur? I think they'll try and go for the inflation and devalue the currency. But, that's just my opinion. And, that's one of the reasons why I hold real assets, including gold and silver. But anyway, before, guys, if you like this video, by the way, please hit that like button. Really do appreciate it. But before we finish this video, I just want to share a little rap video from Remy, and definitely click on the link below in the description and follow him on YouTube.
Raise the debt ceiling, 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 raise the debt ceiling. 14 trillion in debt, but yo, we ain't got no qualms. Dropping $100 bills and billion dollar bonds. Spending money we don't have, that's the name of the game. They call me cumulonimbus because you know I make it rain. Drive all kinds of cars, got all kinds of whips. People ask me how I get them, I tell them simulate. Social security surplus, guess what it's gone. Got my hands on everything like Dominic Strauss-Kahn. Ain't got no Medicare trust fund, son, that's just absurd. Spending every single penny that we see, son, have you heard? Ain't got no moral objection, ain't got no kind of complaint. Ain't got no quantitative statutory budget restraints. Raising debt ceiling, 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 raising debt ceiling. All up in the Fed and we living in style. Spending lots of money while we sipping Cristal. Making it rain and yeah, it be so pleasing. Did I say make it rain? I mean quantitative easing. QE1, QE2, QE4, QE3. Dropping IOUs in every fund that I see. Printing the cash, inflating the monies. Calling up China, hey yo, we straight out of 20s. All up in the club, we be loud and out. While in the market, yeah, we be crowding out. On the beach, getting tan and sipping Corona. I got a monetary plan and it involves a lot of tone. Raising debt ceiling, 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 raising debt ceiling.
So if you look at the chart and you examine the trend, we borrow 40 cents of every single dollar we spend, and non-discretionary spending increases every day. Do you have a comment for committee? I make it rain. Mr. Speaker, could you beam me up? A congressperson cutting spending couldn't dream me up. But we're all gonna default if we follow the road. You know, I could have thought of this $14 trillion ago. Cause I'm the king of the links. I'm a menace in tennis. I'm sticking spinners on my rims, picking winners in business. So if you looking for some cash, cause things are getting heavy, I got some big old piles of money. Guess what? They shovel ready. Raising debt ceiling, 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 raising debt ceiling. Our debt is more unsustainable in my rap career. Yeah.
So I thought that rap from Remy was just too good in the context of the debt ceiling and this $1 trillion Fed coin or platinum coin or whatever. So I hope you guys liked it. And don't forget to click on the link below and subscribe to his channel. So are we going to see a $1 trillion platinum coin? Maybe. There's definitely on the left side of politics, the Democrats really want to push this thing. They really want to go full MMT and basically merge the Fed and Treasury. And, you know, if anyone's read Stephanie Kelton's book, The Deficit Myth, you know, it's a great propaganda book. Sounds lovely, sounds nice. I think Peter Schiff explained it best when he said MMT is correct, or it's like it's like jumping off a skyscraper. On the way down, you're fine, absolutely fine, until you hit the pavement. Look, I think the debt ceiling will be raised. Both sides of politics, this creature of government and central planning, you know, central banks, it's out of control. It's so huge. It doesn't matter whether you know you're left or right. There's just too many people that are big government now, and so we're going to see, I believe, the debt ceiling raised, more deficit spending. You know, Luke Groman is talking about how we've now got to the point where just the interest bill alone equals the tax receipts, and so you know. Once again, he doesn't believe that interest rates are going to rise either, because that will ultimately cause tremendous problems. So governments are basically insolvent at the moment. Central banks are funding their operations. If we do see a trillion or $10 trillion Fed coin or platinum coin or gold is revalued or whatever, it'll be for governments to just access more digitally printed Fed notes currency to spend. And so I don't think we're going to get that default in nominal terms. I think we're going to get the default in real terms. I think we're going to get the default through higher and higher inflation. You know, some say hyperinflation. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, that's my opinion. Not financial advice or anything like that, but that's why I do hold real assets, because I look at the macro side of things. I look at the politicians. What's a more likely outcome? Default in nominal terms allow a deflationary depression. They'll all be voted out because most people don't understand economics, or sound economics anyway, and so they will vote themselves free stuff. they'll vote themselves cash handouts. They'll vote themselves all these promises from politicians, not realizing that inflation is actually eating at their back pocket. So anyway, so that's why I'm a big believer in precious metals, sound money, gold, silver, and commodities and real assets. So anyway, love to see your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. Hit that notification bell. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you again on another episode of Finance Uncut.